Hi guys, this is Nikki Rowland and today I have a layout for Lottie Loves Paper and I'm using the wonderful Create Paper Magical Forest collection, which is packed full of cute critters and icons that I just adore, and we've been going for a lot of walks in the woods lately, so absolutely ideal. So I had the idea that I would try and create a scene of kind of rolling hills is what I was aiming for, with a starburst in the sky, and I wanted to create a little mushroom. Well, then I started drawing a mushroom and then I decided I didn't like it, so I went for a little mushroom house or cottage, which is super duper cute. You can see that I have drawn it on a piece of paper there and cut it out. So I've drawn it several times. I finally got it right. I'm happy with how it looks. I'm happy with the size. So I've cut it out. I've just drawn it on A4 paper and cut it out. And I did the same thing with my hills as well. I cut them on, I drew them on A4 paper first, and then I cut them out and then used those pieces as a template. This is the best way of doing something like this if you aren't confident enough to draw directly onto your layout or directly onto your piece of paper. I find that creating something on a piece of A4 paper first is really great, and a great way of creating a kind of a template, and you can make mistakes and get it wrong, it doesn't matter. That's kind of how I do it. You can see that I cut the first piece of the mushroom and didn't like it. The pattern was just too white. It had spots on which were lovely, but with the white background it just didn't read right as a solid for the house itself. So I've gone back to this one, which is a much more solid design, the yellow with a subtle kind of lines on it, diamond pattern. So I've done that instead, and then I'm going ahead with my the roof now, so the head of the mushroom, I am just going to cut that out of another fairly solid pattern as well. So it's a pinky one with it's got dotted rainbows on it, but once it's cut up into this small piece you can't really see the rainbows at all, so it just looks like a peach colour with white dots. So you can see that those two pieces, because I followed my template that I cut apart, it actually looks quite realistic and looks like kind of like the drawing that I had initially, and the two pieces fit together really nicely. I have just drawn on the little detail for like under the cup of the mushroom, so that they are going to be a slightly different colour. At the moment I'm not sure if I'm going to paper piece them with a different pattern or what I'm going to do yet. So I'm now just going to stick these two pieces together onto a piece of white card. It's actually like a slightly off-white, it's like a cream, and it's got a bit of sparkle to it as well, so it's just slightly off-white. It just works better with the Magical Forest collection, because even though there is white in the collection, the colours of the browns and the pinks, it's all quite muted, it's quite earthy, and the bright stark white just didn't quite look right. So there's my little mushroom house coming together. My hills are now coming together. I'm just going with my hills. I plan to stitch around the edges, so I'm just going to go through and make my my stitching holes with my paper piercing tool and mat. So I'm just literally making holes all the way along. I plan to stitch around with thick thread, and yeah, keep it quite chunky, so 6 strands. So I'm going to do the same thing with my mushroom house and go all the way around the edges. So you can see that I've stuck it onto a piece of white and then cut it out, but with a massive border, and that's because I'm going to trim the border down later. So I'm just getting my all my holes in place for the mushroom, and then I'm just going to go and do some stitching in front of the TV. I actually sat down with my little boy, my 7-year-old, and we sat and watched a film about space together. So it's quite a nice way of being able to sit down with the kids and watch a film with them, but also whilst doing some scrapbooking. So a bit of guilt-free scrapbooking, sewing in front of the TV with the kids. So yeah, it was really good. So I'm just putting out my threads here. I want to kind of match colours. So the background with the hills, I need something that's kind of dark to bring them to life. So I've gone for like a teal colour that's in the collection, and for the yellow I'm pulling out yellow, and then for the pink I'm pulling out pink. And I've pulled out some white as well, although not sure whether I'm going to use that. I think I will do on the background, but I won't use it on the mushroom itself. I also want to create some windows, and also some detail on the roof of the mushroom house as well. So in my pattern that I created earlier, I didn't have anything on the roof, but now you can see I've finished my stitching. I've added all the bits, and you can see that I did add a pattern to the roof, and I've also added some pathways to my rolling hills. They were again on my A4 pattern that I'd already done, and I just cut those out and then cut them out again in a piece of craft card, just use them as a template and stuck them on, stitched around them. With the mushroom house, so I'd already figured out my windows and doors, so I just had to cut those from pattern papers and stick them on and stitch around them. Now the roof itself, I hadn't planned to put anything on the roof, but do you remember I cut out the body of the house from a piece of paper that had those coloured ovals all over it, and that was therefore spare, so I decided to use those and stick them onto the roof, and then stitch around those as well, and it looks super duper cute. I'm so pleased that I did do that. It was extra time spent stitching in front of the TV with my boy, so that was fine by me. So I just literally enjoyed my evening, sat there stitching away, and yeah, it was a lovely evening. So yeah, so that's my little mushroom house done. I added some stitching details around the door and the windows. The windows are a double layer, and the door has a little window in the middle as well, and I did a French knot for the door handle. So now I'm going to work on my sky. So the sky needs some clouds and a sunshine. So I've chosen a point where my sun is going to be, and I am drawing lines very faintly with a pencil, and I'm using a ruler from the point going all the way out to the edges of the cardstock and down to the hills as well. And then I'm going to pierce holes with my paper piercing tool, and then I'm going to stitch through all of those with my white thread to give me this lovely starburst effect on my background. And then over that is going to sit my sun, and then I'm going to put a couple of clouds on there too. But around my sun I need some stitching as well, so I've just stuck a circle on. It's literally a circle cut with a circle punch from one of the Magical Forest papers, and then I'm stitching around the edge with a yellow thread. This is slightly more tricky because the circle wouldn't stick very well because I'm sticking it over sewn paper, so I've got the extra texture of the stitching on there, and it wouldn't stay in place very well, so I had to really stick it down very, very well and then stitch around it. Okay, so that is all my stitching done. Doesn't it look absolutely fabulous? I'm so happy with it, even though it did take me a few hours. I'm really happy with it. It's not an epic stitching layout. It hasn't taken hours and hours and hours and hours, like 15 hours like some of them do, but it has taken, you know, a few hours, but say I used it wisely, and just sat down and watched some TV, so it was fine, and it's really worth it, and it's really effective. I love how it looks. So now I'm just sticking on some clouds. These are punched from the same colour cardstock as I've used for the background, and I'm punching using just a cloud punch that I've got in my stash. So I have punched it several times and then stuck them on, and I've made sure that some go off the edges of the cardstock to make it look more kind of realistic. And then my little mushroom house will go back where it was originally intended to go. I did think about stitching around all my clouds as well, but I decided that would be a step too far. So I'm now ready to make the rest of my layout. I can add my little mushroom house now. I'm going to stick the bottom edge flat, and then raise the top on foam pads to give it some lovely dimension. And then my photo is going to tuck under the left hand side of the mushroom. So my photo has a giant tree in it, and then my girl and my little boy are standing next to it, so I was able to cover up some of the tree trunk with the mushroom house, and And yeah, it just looks cute, poking out, peeping out from the side of the house. I have fussy cut some critters from the Magical Forest sheet that has all the big trees all over it. So it has big trees, like it's a woodland scene. It has foxes and squirrels and rabbits and all sorts of things on it as well. So there's some of the trees that are from that paper. I thought I'd try and get a couple of these onto the layout. I kind of wanted them to look like they were trees in the distance on the fields, on the rolling hills, but that didn't really look right. So I've just tucked one behind my mushroom house, and then two down in the foreground. You can see I'm going to add one of those amazing wrapped rainbow embellishments at the top there as well. Of course, a rainbow in the sky, it goes well up there. So my little trees down the bottom and some critters around there as well. And then I've got some at the bottom left corner of the mushroom house too. And then I'm just going to carry on working out what can go where. So this layout is a busy layout. It's a big scene, it's got loads on it, so I need to make sure that I don't overwhelm it with embellishments, and I do really like my embellishments, so I have to be careful. There's nowhere really for a title. I could have definitely got one in somewhere, but I decided that I really loved this phrase. It's in a circle, it's a puffy sticker from one of the Thickers sets, like an icon and phrase stickers, and it says "Stay little forever," and I decided that that was good enough for my title. It's a really lovely sentiment, I love it. Yeah, I'm going to use that as my title. So that's just going to go at the bottom there. You can see that it's I've trimmed off the bottom rather than have it as a full circle. I've just trimmed off the bottom edge, and that's my title there. So I'm now just getting my trees stuck down and in place, just making sure that they are fully stuck, adding some extra foam pads behind my photo and behind my trees, now that I've committed to where they're definitely going to go. And now I just need to create a little cluster of embellishments around my photo and then bring it down towards my Stay Little Forever as well. So I've just added a rainbow that was fussy cut from one of the papers, the one with rainbows all over it. Then I've got the heart, that is a sticker from the sticker sheet. Just above it, I've raised it on foam pads as well to give it some dimension. I've added a fabric bow. Now I loved these fabric bows. I'm on my second packet and they've all gone, I think. I might have one left. I don't think so. I think I've used all of them now. I do love a bow. So I've used the bow in the middle of my mushroom house to give it a bit of wow factor, you know, right like above the door type thing. And I'm now just trying to figure out my critters. Now I don't really like my critters. They're fussy cut from the paper, but they're very small, and with the coloured background rather than a white background, I just wasn't too happy with how they were looking. So I have used some, but not as many as I had expected. I had expected to have them all over the layout, but no, I've only used a few. I've got one of those paper clips from the collection, clothes pegs from the collection, and chopped off the clothes peg from behind it and used the fox head instead. I've added a mushroom above the fox's head. That's a chipboard piece. Another one down on the right as well towards the bottom edge. Yeah, just kind of carrying on really, fiddling around. I've got some star stickers. I thought about putting some stars in the sky, but of course the sun's out and there's the rainbow in the sky, so having stars out for nighttime didn't really fit. So I'm going to put the stars down the bottom instead. Just stuck on my rainbow embellishment. I could use glossy accents, but I think hot glue was the best option. They are pretty thick embellishments. So now I've forgotten to do the dark bits under the mushroom cup. So I have got a glitter pen marker thing that just happened to be pretty much the right colour. So I've just coloured in those two areas with the glitter marker just to make them a bit darker than what they are, to make it look like there's some shadow there and it goes up inside. So just added a couple of twiddles of gold thread under my trees and under my bottom corner of my photo cluster there. So just because I like my twiddles of gold thread, really. I think it was towards the end of the bobbin and it was really curly, so they're a bit rogue, but yeah, they look okay. happy to get a bit of sparkle onto the layout, and it goes really well with the kind of goldy tone in the mushroom house and the sun. And that's me done. Thank you very much for joining me today for this slightly epic and crazy layout. Give it a go. Give making a scene a go. It's great fun. I always love what I create when I make these layouts. And check out the Magical Forest collection from the Lottie Loves Paper shop. Thank you so much. That was Nikki Rowland for Lottie Loves Paper.